Here we go.
Are we on?
I think we are.
Hello, Wildflowers. Looks like we're on. Welcome back.
What number is this?
30.
Yay,
Peggy!
All right.
Right, so
I'm Judy.
I'm Carol.
I'm Peggy.
And Peggy was right, number 30.
Number 30.
I'm always right.
How's everybody doing on this fine day?
It is good. I was like, it is great, but then I was like, oh, I have allergies, but I don't mind having it because it's such a beautiful day.
And
Right.
yeah, the sun is shining.
So I feel like a little.
It's not raining.
No, we are taping this on
Vlogs.
April 2nd, so it won't air until next week, but that's okay.
Did you have a good April Fool's Day?
I didn't get to really fool anybody. I did Jason a little bit. I got him, but nothing major. I had different ideas, but I never did it. What about you?
No, I never do.
No, I want to.
We're not like an April Fool's Day family, I guess.
Did you do?
Oh, yeah.
No, the kids
What did you do?
Well, we did the toiletish things. We have things that we put in the toilet, and then which sounds weird, but we have 2 bathrooms.
It is weird.
And then we take them out, and then later on during the day we put them back in, like just so that you forget about
Yeah.
it.
Right.
And then my daughters got into it. Daphne got into it more than Willow this year, and Daphne like taped up all the entrances to like the rooms, and so and it got her sister pretty well because her sister walks around with the phone like this all the time, you know. And then she's like walked in and she gets all smacked up on the table.
Oh my God.
And then even up until the last minute last night, I went in on my bed nightstand. There was a whole bunch of cotton on my bedstand, which sounds innocuous, but
Right.
I don't know about you, but I have this aversion to
Oh, like
touching
cotton balls? Oh, it makes my teeth.
Yes, right. And
I
so,
have it right now, just thinking
yes,
about
thinking about it. It's
We
such a
have
big
an audience member right now. She's making faces at us.
And so
Cotton balls, you can touch them?
yes, it was like
People put them in
11:30
their
at
ear.
night.
I don't know how they do it.
Oh, you're the only one I met that is like this. And I go,
My dog's ears with cotton balls.
Oh, no, if I touch a cotton ball, it has to be wet.
yeah.
So you don't remove your eye makeup with a cotton ball?
Not a cotton ball, no.
No, I use the little, well, usually I just use a wipe.
Right.
But sometimes I use those little cotton
Pads,
pads.
that's what I use. And they can't be the organic ones because I'm sorry, but the organic ones feel like real cotton
Oh,
balls.
really?
Yeah, you don't get
Oh,
those.
okay.
It has to be.
All right. No, I've never gotten them.
I had
So-
no idea that this was going to be the
It's
conversation.
a thing, and like when
But
you
it's
get the
hysterical.
medicine and the cotton's inside.
Oh, I hate
hate that.
taking it
I
out.
can't do it. I'm always like, somebody take this out from me.
I know. I've used the tweezer to take it out
Yes, yeah,
before.
me too.
I know. No, I can't either.
I can't do it.
You have like the chills
Yes,
going in my
gross.
neck and my spine.
As
It is.
long as I know these 2 women, I never knew this about
I didn't know
cotton
that
balls.
about
Oh, see, I didn't know it about you.
Wow.
Some things
That
we
is
try to keep
kind-
secret because people think that you're crazy.
Yeah, this is a little disturbing, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this.
Why do you have the world clock on?
I don't know why I did this. Wait.
In
no,
Cupertino,
she
it's
was
12:18.
She wishes she was somewhere else right now.
Well, you know what? I know we have a lot to cover.
Yes,
but
we do.
We've got Judy. Judy is going to do the topic. Did you want to say what the topic is?
Yes, we're going to talk about the Second Amendment.
I like that. And Peggy's going to do the book, and I do the wine.
And we're
So-
going to need wine to keep this up.
You know, do you mind if I'm gonna step away for a second because I forgot to turn the volume off my phone,
Okay.
and since there's stuff going on, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
And then I'll have you bring this over to Lisa, our audience member. So I'm not going to tell you anything about the wine until we taste it. Nothing. I want you to pick up the notes, the flavor, the aroma.
I just realized I left my book at home.
Oh, that you're going to be talking about?
Well, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
right,
There,
that's
live TV.
We are just so professional. I'll have what's Peggy doing over there?
I'm very
We're pouring
sorry.
4 glasses today. Now, Lisa, who's in our audience,
Yes.
do you usually like red? What do you like to drink usually?
Riesling.
Yes.
Well, Riesling.
Wait, bring this over to
okay.
Lisa.
So that's
Lisa,
white,
you want to
but I like
It's
red.
sweet white. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there are very dry Rieslings too. You don't have to have a sweet one. I have actually tasted a dry Riesling once. Samantha had one, and I actually liked it.
Really? You
Yes. because I'm not a Riesling fan.
Okay, so did you hear me? What I said
I
about
heard you, and I think that's an
blackberries.
excellent idea.
You like that? Okay, I'm not going to tell you what kind it is, anything.
I'm gonna
I
go
smell
with cherries.
Okay, well,
I smell blackberry.
happy
Yeah, I smell
springtime.
cherries.
Happy
Happy belated birthday, Carol's
birthday, yes.
just passed on
Thank
March
you.
31st.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And my daughter's birthday is next week, April 6th.
April 6th. Ooh, I kind of like this. You're not sure, Lisa? You're making a face.
No, I'm trying I like this, Carol.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you
It
taste?
is nice and fruity. I do taste fruit in it.
Okay.
It tastes familiar to me, though. Did
Nice
we
and
do
dry.
this wine on another
No,
podcast?
this is brand new, and it's not from National Geographic Wine Selection.
I'm tasting some
Is this a
fruits.
Merlot?
No.
Oh, we have to guess what kind
I'm
of
not
wine it is. Oh.
drinking stinking Merlot. Wasn't that from Sideways?
So I love that movie.
I didn't love it. I liked it. I didn't love it.
I watched it like 3 times. I liked it. Well, because as a writer, I appreciated his Miles' frustration.
Well, it's not a Pinot Noir because
No.
it's too full
No.
bodied.
It doesn't
That's right.
seem like a
Good.
Cabernet either. Is it? It doesn't
Tempranillo?
Rioja.
It's not a Chianti.
A Rioja?
Here, hand me that bag down, the bottle's down there.
Oh,
Can you
is
read
it?
Right down there. I
Carol
can't-
doesn't know what it is.
No,
think.
I know what it
If I move
is.
my chair, Carol's Peggy's gonna yell at me.
No, we'll see you in
Oh,
a minute.
that's it. I am going to yell at
Okay.
you.
it's all covered up.
Yeah, I didn't want you to say. Okay, so this is the wine.
Ooh, I like the bottle.
Austin Hope.
Oh, I like the name Paso Robles. I've been there, and it is a Cabernet.
It is
It's a
a Cabernet.
Cabernet.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, price point. Can you want to make a guess?
Paso Robles. I'm going to say $13.99.
No, I'm gonna say $16.99.
How much would you pay for this bottle?
For this bottle
Depends
of
how
wine, I would
thirsty I
pay
am.
$12.99, $13.99.
No, I pay more. I pay
Yeah.
like up to 20.
Would you pay? Would you pay $65?
No.
That's how much it was. 60.
This is a $65 wine.
You got us a $65
I did. I'm
wine?
blushing now. Yes, because
Oh, you
I.
love us.
I do. I went
Wow,
to
this is
Stu
good.
Leonard's and I said to the guy at Stu Leonard's, it's a wine store, not the grocery store.
It's very good.
And I said, okay, I have a podcast. I want to do something different with the wine tasting. I want an expensive wine. And Natasha was with me, and Corey was with me, and Natasha picked out one that she liked, that she buys often. It's a $45 wine. And I said, I think I want something a little bit more. And so
Wow.
he goes, I love you, come with me. And he took me into this room, this back room.
Oh, you got the back room.
Yeah.
Did you get to taste it first?
No, I didn't even ask to. I forgot to bring my glasses in here, but I think, I think I got it. So here's what it is. It's aromas of black currants and cherries, accompanied
I
by
did the cherries.
subtle smoky notes and dried spices. It's full-bodied and rich with flavors of blackberry, ripe cherry, vanilla, and butter. And
It
it's a
is smooth.
Cabernet Sauvignon. Would I spend this kind of money all the time? Absolutely not. We drink it too fast. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to
Yeah.
do something a
No,
little
this is
different.
You, that was
you. I
very
love
nice
it.
of you.
I actually, when we saw that $200 bottle when we were at the other place, and the bottles.
Yes,
And I was so tempted to try that, but I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be that crazy. Not right now, anyway.
No, this is a great. I mean, I would if I knew this. It was
What do you think?
$65 at a restaurant. I would
Yeah.
buy if it was a special occasion. But I
Right.
thought you meant would you spend it just like on a Friday night or just
Right, yeah, that's,
no, I wouldn't.
yeah,
that,
no,
no,
yeah.
no, that's what I meant. Like
Yeah.
our price points are usually when we do the wine is 20.
Yeah.
And
No, but
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
like expensive to me is like $21.99. Oh my
right.
God, that's expensive.
But I
You
was
know.
just curious because your reactions are pretty awesome. Because I was like, what if they just like, oh no,
No, I like
you
it.
know? And for that price point,
Yeah, and the thing is with wine, and I've read this in so many places, that you don't have to spend $60 on
Right.
a bottle of wine to get a good bottle of
Yeah,
wine.
exactly.
And many wines that I've had were delicious, and most of the times they're under $20.
right? And
Right,
Stu
you
Leonard's,
know.
I get their emails now because they finally put the right email address in it for me. Because I go, why am I not getting any specials or
I
anything?
love Stu Leonard's.
And yeah, and I'm talking about the liquor store.
Oh yeah.
That's what
One
I'm
across, yeah.
Yeah, and so they had my name spelled wrong. So now I'm getting the emails, and they say that the $20 bottle wines or less is what's selling.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know.
That is, and they're excellent wines
Yeah.
in that price range.
Well, I love this now. It's like stepping up our
Yeah.
game. This is
I
it's
know.
making me think for the next ones. Maybe
I have a
should,
friend who lives in Paso Robles, actually.
really?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
Because we all have birthdays in
Yeah.
April.
Yes, we
So
do.
this is like a.
I know.
Well, no, I have birthday in March.
Oh well, you're at the end of
Well, it's the end of
adopt
March,
you.
so
We
you're still in Aries,
Yes,
right?
I am. I'm
What
an
happens
Aries.
to your birthday?
I'm an Aries.
January.
Oh,
Just,
January.
Does
Does that
Okay.
make you spring chickens?
Oh, you well, spring summer.
Yes, it
Well,
does.
that's the wine.
Thank you,
Anyway,
love
it's
it.
Austin Hope.
So does that make you January a snow bunny?
Look at her. Look at her. I don't know. I don't want to cover Peggy.
Yeah, well you always do. It's
Here, I can
always
put it
right.
up. Here.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
All right, so let's talk about that big book.
Oh my goodness, this is a big book. So the book that I am reviewing today is Stephen King's very heavy hardcover book. It's his most recent book, and it's called Fairytale. It is, how many pages? It's almost 700. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's not almost 700. It's almost 600.
It looks like it could be like
I know.
1,000 pages. It's pretty thick there.
I can't turn the page. Okay, so it is 598 pages. It took me a while to read it. It did, because I do other things.
Do you?
I do
And you do
other
do them
things.
so well.
Oh, thank you, Carol. So I seem to be busier than normal in my life, like the past, 6 months. It seems
Well,
like
you've had some distractions.
yeah, I guess so. Notwithstanding that, still with other things.
Right.
You know, I seem to be too busy. Like I haven't read in like over a week, and that's unlike
wow,
me.
yeah.
I know.
Well, we actually were in the city this week. That was one thing.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, for 2 days we were in the city.
We were on the road
That
book
was
events.
fun.
Yep.
Yep, we went to a really good restaurant.
Yes,
It
we
was
did.
good. I really liked it.
Yes, we went to Seymour's.
I
Yeah.
heard.
SEAMORES.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Stephen. I didn't mean to.
I know. I'm sure he's watching too.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
Steve. I'll talk to you later. So anyway, this book, Fairytale, I really did. I loved it. I'm a Stephen King fan anyway. I mean, he's written some stuff that I said, but for the most part, I love his books. I think he's an excellent writer. His prose just flows for me. I think he's very good at character development, and in this book, there are a couple of main characters. The first and foremost is this teenager. He's 17 years old, and his name is Charlie, and he lives with his father, and they live in, where the heck do they live? I forgot. Is it someplace in Illinois? But they live like in a kind of like country-ish.
Like modern day times?
Yes, in modern day times. He lives with his dad, who's his mother died. She died in a terrible car accident, a hit and run accident, sudden. Of course that's sudden. His dad, after the mom died, hit the bottle really, really hard and became a drunk for all intents and purposes. And Charlie was forced to grow up so quickly, because he had to take care of his dad, and he is in school. He's into football and baseball. He was on both of those teams. And they don't have a lot of money because his dad lost his job. So a lot of problems there. One of the other main characters is Mr. Bowditch, and he is a neighbor, and he's like the cranky old man that lives in the neighborhood that nobody has a relationship with. He's like, get off my lawn, and like he lives in this old, broken down house, and nobody really knows him. And then there are other characters in another world, which is very interesting. So anyway, one day, I'm going to cut this short. Oh, also one of the other main characters is a German Shepherd named Radar. And he's one of it's a female dog. She's one of the stars of the story.
Cool.
It's
intriguing.
Yeah.
the whole plot kind of starts with that dog.
Okay.
And I don't want to give too much away, but what happens is that one day Charlie is walking home from football practice or something, I don't remember that detail, and he passes by Mr. Bowditch's house, and he looks and he hears a dog barking, 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 barking. So he approached the broken down gate in front of the house, and he sees the man laying on the ground moaning.
Oh.
So he goes in to help, but now the dog is coming towards him, and like he makes friends with the dog. And he helps the old man and calls 911. And the story develops, he develops this friendship with this man who's such a loner, and nobody really knows him. And Charlie becomes very attached to him and to his dog. Now, Radar is very old by now, and she's probably going to die soon. So, while Mr. Bowditch ends up in the hospital for a long time because he broke his leg very badly, and so he asked Charlie to like take care of his house and take care of his dog while he's gone, while he's in the hospital. And Charlie starts discovering things about Mr. Bowditch, and he starts confiding in him that there's a secret that he has, and he needs him to, buy dog food and stuff. So he tells him, he said, you're going to find some gold pellets, and you're going to have to go to this other town, to this particular man, and he's going to take the gold and give you cash for it. So he finds that there's like a bucket full of like gold pellets. And there's also a shed that's always locked. And Charlie, every time he's outside, he always hears sounds coming from the shed.
Ooh.
So I don't want to give away the secret. I don't think that I should.
No.
But there's a whole other world revolved. It's a fairy tale world in this book, and how Charlie goes there to save the life of the dog. And so I don't know how much I could say,
I think that's good. That's
without
good,
revealing it.
Yeah.
But it's such a great story. There's so many interesting characters. There's a lot of danger. There's evil in it.
Of course.
And of
Stephen
course,
King.
yeah. And of course, everything's very odd in this world because of Stephen King. But Charlie ends up, he's of course the hero
Right.
of the story.
That sounds really
Yeah, I do recommend it. Like, read it over the summer when you have a lot of free time. The problem is that it's a big, fat, heavy hardcover, and it's not easy to lug around.
Right.
So, but I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Stephen King.
A lot of people do read
keeping
on
me
their
entertained.
Kindles, so
right.
they make,
Or audiobooks.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's on audio, but
I'm sure it is. It's Stephen King. I'm sure it's on audio and Kindle and everything
Right.
else. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I read it, even though it took me a while.
Okay.
I kept on going back to it, even if a couple of days passed and I didn't have time to read. I always had it right there, next to my chair.
Well,
and,
it's funny because several podcasts you'd be like, I'm in the middle of this one, but I'm going to share this one because I haven't finished this one.
This was the one because I kept on saying, oh my God, I didn't finish it yet. So fortunately for me, most of the times I read quite frequently.
Right.
So I have a stockpile of books that I have read in the past few months that I can talk about.
Okay.
And we all used to have a book club, including Lisa over there, our audience member. And I really wish that we could get that back again.
know.
I really want to do
Somebody's
a book club
putting
again.
pressure. I mean, at least
No pressure, but it was. I enjoyed it so much, and I know that we do a lot. All of us, we all have a lot in our lives going on.
Right.
But that was such a. I used to love coming to the book club,
Yes,
and
me too.
there were like 12 of us originally.
Yeah, there was quite a number.
we were all different personalities,
Yes.
different
And
life.
different taste in reading. Like we would have to read books that we said, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
I never would have picked up that book."
What I loved about was that we said right from the beginning, this is because we were all so different, and so we would all at the beginning of our first meeting put in a title of a book that we wanted to read in a hat, and then we would pick the book and everybody had to read it, no matter
That's right.
what.
Right.
Yeah.
And that I love, because we read books we never would have picked up on our
Exactly,
own.
and some of them I loved, and I know some of the ones I recommended, too. Also, people say, "Oh, I never read that, and I enjoyed it." So it's, sometimes some of the picks will like,
But they stay with you, and you go.
I'm not mentioning any names.
Oh, I know what
Matt.
you're talking about. Okay.
But we won't go there.
No.
But you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to rate the wine with Wildflowers.
Oh, this is a 5.
Oh, okay.
Five
Well, since you paid
wildflowers,
$66, it's a 5 wildflower.
No, it
Let's
really
make it
is.
6.
No, it really is. It's a
Okay, yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay.
I thought it was I was thinking this could be a Cabernet, but it just doesn't taste like the Cab. It was smoother than a Cab, so I'm
Right,
thinking, no, it's
Yeah.
not, because I never in my wildest dreams would have thought you would have spent
Well,
that
it's
much
very,
money.
very
So
good.
five
So
flowers.
Austin Hope.
Okay.
I
All right.
like the label. I like the name of the
Okay.
wine.
All right. And Stephen King.
Stephen King, I'm going to give him 5 wildflowers
Awesome.
too.
Oh, good.
This
That's
was
what
a
Stephen King.
there's a lot of twists and turns and weird stuff. He
Which
ends up
she
in a
loves.
prison dungeon.
Wow.
I'll tell you that. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Now it's Judy's turn. Talking about the
We're
Prison.
We're going to talk about the Second Amendment, and I wanted to bring, I'm an attorney, and this is personal opinion. It doesn't reflect anything to do with my own work and practice
Right.
and everything. But I thought it would be good topics to kind of go through the amendments in general, one by one on different topics. Maybe not every time I have a topic,
Right,
but I
right.
just thought it would be good. And then, unfortunately, what happened recently in Nashville at the Covenant School, it just seemed that this was the right time to talk about the Second Amendment as far as our topic.
Especially since we've had so many shootings, one right after the other.
Well, it's funny you
and
said
involving children.
Because I didn't fact check this. You can fact check this, but on this morning on CBS News they put statistics. I watch
Yeah.
the morning news, the show on Sunday mornings. It's like 9 to 10:30. I love the little stories they do, but they also have put their facts, and they had a on their screen, and I paused it to make sure I got all of the facts.
okay.
They had these facts about, as of April 1st, 2023, these are the gun-related deaths just from this year up until January to April. So deaths year to date, 10,467 gun-related deaths in this country. Gun suicides year to date from January to April 1st, 6,006. Children killed by guns. Now, children are under the age of 17.
Oh, okay.
424 in just 4 months. And mass shootings, 131. And so those are the statistics that we have here. And
It's 4 months, 3 months. 3 months.
yeah. Oh, 3 months. Yeah, I guess you're
Yeah.
right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're right.
Math
3
is not my
months.
strong point.
Today's April 2nd.
Yeah,
You're right. So
Yeah.
this was as of April 1st. They put that on there. And I studied the Constitution in law school, obviously, but it's something that I forget the words, I forget the meanings, and I always carry asterisk because I don't have it with me now because I took it out. I always carry the Constitution with me in my
Right.
pocketbook as well. That's why I have a torn rotator cuff. My pocketbook is so heavy. I have Robert Frost in there. I've got my Constitution, whatever book I'm reading, and so. I took it out as I was researching and writing my notes for today, and I left it on my nightstand, so my apologies. But I did write down, thankfully, and I want everyone to know what the Second Amendment actually says.
Yeah.
So you can hear it. And I'm going to emphasize punctuation as well.
No.
And I'm doing that for a reason, okay? And we can talk about that. So the Second Amendment reads, a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed, period. So this was adopted in 1791. And that's in 1791, the threat to the country at the time, we recently won our independence after a long fought battle with England.
Right.
And England was not convinced that this would be a long held
Yeah, they
success
thought that
for
we
us.
were going to fall
We were
apart.
kind of falling apart, fighting with each
Right.
other, and they were just going to wait. They were waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces, essentially, or wait till we were weak enough to come back in and take over again. And so recognizing this, this amendment was adopted. And I don't think a lot of people read it or know the connection between militia and arms. And think, they're just hearing they may just hear what they've been told or believe what they've been told, is that we have a right to bear arms, period.
Right.
Now, there's a few things I wanted to talk about. The first one is the word right. Right is different than freedom. And I've had a lot of discussion with people on this. And I know the three of us are like-minded, so I want to be more of a moderator, on this.
Sure.
And I want to give different points of view. And some people that I've spoken to say a right is a freedom. And that's not it. And the way, if you look through the Constitution where they use the word freedom and they use the word right, it's distinct. And there are restrictions that are placed on right. You have a right to vote, right? But there are restrictions on your right to vote.
You have to register to vote.
Right. And so for the same thing is with the right to arms. So this is a right. You don't have a freedom. And I'm in a very lay person, the way I was kind of thinking about this in my mind is you're born with the capability of speech for the most part. I know there are some exceptions, very strange circumstances and unfortunate circumstances, but you can develop that speech, and we are guaranteed to use our speech, right? And
Sherlock.
And have that in use in a way, but we're not born with guns in our hands.
Right.
And so but you have a right in this country to have them. Right? And it says the right to bear arms. That doesn't mean to use arms. Doesn't mean it to use arms, to bear arms. And there's a lot of different things to talk about. So I talked about the right versus freedom, okay?
That's really interesting. I'm sorry, because I never ever thought of it that way, but that's absolutely true.
Well, you can compare it with you have a right to drive a car.
Absolutely.
But you have to get a license. You have to take a test. You have to have insurance.
The only thing I'd say about that, it doesn't say that in the
right. No, there's no amendment.
Right.
We have a lot of rights that there are requirements for having that right.
I would think licenses are more like privileges, right? But if you look at the example of driving a car or flying a plane and getting a license or something like that, we have more restrictions on a privilege than we have on a right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that was the first point I wanted to make. The other one I wanted to focus on in the Second Amendment, the wording itself, is the connection to militia. Everyone gets caught up in an individual right. But it starts off with a militia, and you would know this more because you're more the professional writer, with the way commas are constructed.
Right.
The way I was kind of taught this is you have everything before your first comma is like the subject of the sentence.
Right.
And everything in between that last comma is like kind of background superfluous to give you a connection to what we're talking about, and then but the first part connects with the end. So let me take out just the stuff. So I told you where the commas are.
Right.
I'm going to take out all the stuff in the beginning. I'm just going to focus on the first part of the amendment to the last part. Okay. A well-regulated militia ... shall not be infringed.
Wow. Okay.
Everything else in between, where it's going by grammar construction, is superfluous to a well-regulated militia. So that's a reading of talking about is that perhaps, especially thinking of what they were facing at the time, with the threats of England or whatever, a king coming back in and taking off. They were concerned about keeping a well-regulated militia. How do you do that? You do that by making sure the citizens of the state have armed and are not going to face penalties, right, for keeping...
Exactly, because they could be called to be part of the militia. Similar
to like a National Guard, what we have here already. Okay, so that's an argument. The other thing that we want to talk about, I'm going to jump to my fourth point, because I think the third one we could spend a little bit more time on, is the word, in the beginning, well-regulated. Regulated is laws. Regulated is training. Regulated are regulations.
Right.
So the framers of but the people at the time who adopted this amendment in 1791 said right at the beginning that we need a regulated, not just an okay regulated or a regular. We need a well-regulated militia. And it wasn't, they don't give the right to hold whatever arms they want. You know, they don't say that this is anything you want to have, or just do with it what you want, or you have to be in connection with, you know, defending your home only, or defending, you know, it's in connection with a militia is the way that this is, the way I would read that. You know, however, you know, it is open for interpretation. The last thing I wanted to say to you is the word arms. Arms means armaments, because that's at the time that it was used. Arms could be so. At the time in 1791, the arms at the time were typically handguns and rifles.
Muskets,
Historically, I believe there was some sort of version, and I have to put it out there, of a semi-automatic weapon in effect, even at that time. But it was so scarce and rare that I don't think it was, from what my research has done, that it was in the common framework of society, but the technology, I think, was there to start it at the point. But I just wanted to throw that out there. So that deals with the amendment, so read it. And if we're talking about freedom of speech, which I hope to get to at some point too, in any of our amendment, read what the actual wording says and pay attention to your commas. And to see what and this and if you're, especially, I memean, obviously we're Democrats, but if you're a Republican, this is something you should be paying attention to, because many Republicans, especially Supreme Court justices like the late Antonin Scalia, were strict constitutionalists who believed in just going forward on what the amendment said. Sentence construction and not going outside of that. But that's not what's happening. And so before we get to, I'm going to skip ahead to, I want to get to a little bit of case law, just so you're aware. There are I'm sorry if this is boring, and I'm just talking a lot. And I hope we don't run out of time, but I think it's important to talk about this.
No, it's fine if we run out of time.
Some of the main cases, you know, as of any law, is developed by case law as well. And, you know, and I think that's a necessary part.
So that's precedence you're talking about.
Is right. So the amendment is, you know, in existence, but as time goes on, the Constitution is a living, breathing document, because we don't live in the 1791 if the Second Amendment is there. So we have to use case law to develop it and apply to real world situations. And then that case law becomes precedent, unless we're talking about Roe versus Wade and the Supreme Court just blew it all out. We'll talk about that another time. But going forward is, you know, we haven't had a lot of case development in the Second Amendment up until probably this last half of, you know, the past 20-something years. And we have to start off, I think, in 2008 with the case of Heller, which is a D.C. versus Heller. Now, Mr. Heller was a resident of the District of Columbia, and he was challenging a District of Columbia ban of handguns possession in the home. Okay? And he won that case, all right? And he won it, and the Supreme Court said that you do have the right to keep handguns in the home for self-defense. However, this is Antonin Scalia, one of the most conservative justices on the Supreme Court. He made a note of saying, there is, however, a ban, and there should be a ban on sensitive places like schools and churches, and quote, like most rights, he doesn't use freedom, like most rights, the rights secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever, and for whatever purpose. That's a quote from one of the most conservative justices this court has ever seen. And he recognized that there is a limit to this right, and you need to have a purpose, a specific purpose, right? It's not, and for whatever reason, just because I want to have 100 guns in my house, and I don't have to belong to a militia. I don't need training. No, you know, there is a right to have them, but you need, as Scalia is saying, restrictions probably would be constitutional. If there's no specific purpose for having this.
Like an AR-15. Like, why do people need them? A civilian.
So that was in 2008, and then we go forward to 2010, I believe. Yes, it's McDonald versus the city of Chicago. And Chicago has a lot of gun violence there. Now, Mr. McDonald, with others, challenged Chicago's handgun ban. Now, what I should note is the Heller case, which I just spoke about, because District of Columbia is a federal jurisdiction,
Right,
that applied
right.
federally. So now we're looking at the same ban on a
Right,
state level.
right, yeah.
So it was a similar law, right? And it was a 5-4 ruling that the Heller ruling, the one I just read, applied also to states, okay?
Okay.
So those were the two main cases that shaped it. Right after that, the gun lobby ramped up their efforts, okay? And they sought to expand every gun law in the books, falsely claiming that Heller, the ruling in Heller, supported their cause. I bet you the people who listened to them, I know, I hate when I make these grand assumptions, but I'm doing it anyway. Never read Heller.
I know. I was just going to say that. Who the hell reads that?
Read the Heller
What
case.
citizen, everyday
And
citizen
read the
does?
justices that that are, you think, oh, these probably Democrat. No, it wasn't the Democrats only. They weren't alone in this ruling. So read the damn case. Okay, so, but since then, so I'm going to talk about the NRA in a minute, but since then, and since the Supreme Court has now been so stacked with these very conservative justices.
Well, because they're political too.
Right. We have had so much more gun cases reach the Supreme Court and decide. Okay, so, and not the Supreme Court only, but also federal court, I should say. 2022, NYSRPA versus Bruin. NYSRPA stands for New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. This is in 2022. This is a huge expansion now of what's happening with these gun laws. In a 6-3 vote, it struck down New York's century-old public carry licensing law, and annotated a new framework for evaluating Second Amendment cases. So the Second Amendment, usually with anytime you do a case, or especially precedent, there's some sort of test, like a frame test that the justices will lay out in a case law saying, if we're going to evaluate cases going forward, this is what we should do. 2022, they threw out the old precedent and created a new precedent. In 2022, they said the Second Amendment is equivalent to a right to carry a loaded handgun in a public place for self-defense, that you have the right to defend yourself inside and outside the home as well. Okay, so let me just say, so before Bruin, the test was you have to weigh the government's public safety laws against an individual's Second Amendment rights. It's a balancing test. That was what our test was all the way up until 2022, weighing the government's interest in public safety versus the Second Amendment right. I do that in my law. I practice aviation law right now. When we do that with is something aviation, how a person's right, not even a right, privilege to carry a license, balancing that with the public safety, right? Now, with Justice Clarence Thomas writing the majority opinion after Bruin, the government must demonstrate a law is with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. You might think on traditions of firearm.
Wow.
Now, first when I read that, I go, how different is that? Oh, it's very different. And I'm going to tell you, this is like, the bread and butter, like they were probably pouring the champagne with the gun lobby when they got this writing, because look at what's happened since. Okay, right along. Since that ruling, Hardaway versus Negrelli in New York, a federal judge struck down New York's restrictions on carrying firearms in houses of worship. Remember Scalia's talk about how sensitive places, you can ban them.
That's right, schools and churches. And
now it's struck down because houses of worship don't qualify as sensitive places because there's no historical record justifying that restriction.
Wait a minute. So would a historical record be the case like what happened in, where was that, in Georgia when they went in and killed all those
They're
black
talking
people
about
in the church?
historical record back in
They're going
1791.
back.
Oh,
That's what
wow.
Next case, U.S. versus Price. This was decided in Charleston. A federal judge said, well, there was a long-standing federal law banning individuals from possessing firearms with obliterated serial numbers. So like you buy you buy a serial gun, you scrape off the serial number. That was against the law.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer against the law in Charleston. You know what? Because this decision was laughable. I read it. They're like, well, you have no. How can we tell if you have an intent to do something wrong with that?
Well,
We can't penalize Lisa. She has no intent to do anything wrong with that.
right.
Yeah, but still, it's an untraceable weapon.
Why would you? But anyway, so this is what they said. So they said, okay, well, there's no historical tradition that prohibited that conduct.
They didn't have serial numbers back then.
Right. So this is the flaw, the fatal flaw that our Justice Thomas, fails to do is because the guns can continue to evolve, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But the regulations on those guns cannot. So we
Wow.
will always lose because we can't link it to the historical tradition.
So
If they're
how do we
ignoring
get
the
around
motion-
that constitutionally?
Well,
I
we
mean,
got to
can-
get those Supreme Court justices out, and we got to
Yeah.
bring these new laws in. And,
Exactly. So that's up to Congress then to
Yeah.
write these new laws.
Right to,
Or maybe
and to
another
challenge it
amendment.
and to get more forward-thinking justices on
Yeah.
that bench.
Right.
People with brains.
And so
Yeah.
this did not happen by accident. Okay. Can I
Yeah.
keep going? I'm so sorry.
No.
There's just so much I want people, tens and tens of viewers to know, but also us to know, is in 2020, the NRA, first of all, in 2020 had about 5 million members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in 2020, they spent $16.3 million in the presidential race alone. This I'm just talking about Trump and Biden.
Right.
Okay, they gave $4.2 million of support just to Donald Trump. But they spent $12.2 million on opposition
For Joe Biden.
advertisement
Yeah.
and propaganda against Joe Biden. Okay.
Yeah.
They also spent $12.2 million across 145 congressional races. If this is your state, pay attention. They targeted Georgia, North Carolina, Colorado, Arizona, Iowa, Texas, Michigan, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Montana. They spent $12.2 million on that during that time in 2020. When Sandy Hook happened in 2012, as you remember, there were 26 victims of that. 20 of
Yeah.
those victims were children. I'll never forget this. They came out and blamed that this was the head of the NRA. I'm not even going to say his name. I'm not going to dignify him.
No.
He came out and said they blamed the gun-free zones for the school massacres.
Oh.
That's why that's why it happened, because they were
Wow.
gun-free zones, and they promised to. He promised in writing and also speech to protect children with money, guns, and gear, called the School Shield Initiative. Which gave them. In reality, they spent pennies on the dollar, and made not a dent in school violence. They did a research 10 years later to find out what had happened since.
Well,
Nothing.
today on CNN, that Representative Crenshaw, the guy that wears the pirate patch,
Oh yes.
he was on, and Dana Bash was interviewing him about, guns and NRA and the Second Amendment and school shootings in particular. And, she said, what do you think? How do we stop this? And he said, have armed guards at every school.
Oh, yeah.
So she said, so fight guns with more guns. Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying have an armed guard
No, that
at
is what
all
I'm
the
saying.
schools. So that's saying, let's have more guns. Add more
turn
guns than
our
max.
schools into prisons.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, a very similar thing. That's the a very popular, I think, approach. I mean, right
Oh,
after
for Republicans, and he's from
conservative,
Texas,
right?
too. Mhm.
But not even Texas. Right here, the day after the school shooting in Nashville, on the
I know what you're gonna say.
the Facebook page for my town, right? Petition circulating to get school armed guards in our school.
Oh, okay. So I heard I think it was one of the representatives, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it was, but they started blaming it on, not that there's too many guns, that was that transgender person.
Well, that's bullshit.
So-
That's just
That was
It's bullshit that people believe.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
I'm
they
sorry, go
that
ahead.
they from 2014 to 2017. They donated through the School Shield program about $189,000. That's it. Out of comparatively, in 2018, after the Parkland shooting, it went up a little bit, but then in 2020 it was since dormant. Okay. Here's an example though of how it's all political with them. Okay, Chicago, very large.
Now, who is this? The NRA that you're talking about?
Very large public school system there. Obviously, high crime in Chicago. They applied for one of these grants, and they asked for $225,000 in 2020 for a comprehensive safety plan. The NRA sent them $7,560 to be used for survival blankets and first aid kits. Okay. However,
Wow.
Choteau, Oklahoma, which has a population of 2,000, requested $15,000, and they got every penny of it to train and arm teachers. So, you know, this is something to pay attention to. A lot of people though when I was doing my research, find that the NRA is not strong enough. They find that they had been, you know, over the years they're negotiating too much, so they're leaving them. So the NRA is not the only game in town. I don't know if you know that there are
I don't think I
a lot
realized
of other gun lobbies. I want to say two of the fastest growing of them is the National Association for Gun Rights, the American Firearms Association as well. Very confrontational, these two. They have a growing staff, a growing budget. They've nearly tripled both their budget and their staff since 2019. They're becoming the fastest growing lobby in the gun market. And they just feel that the people that are flocking to these feel that the NRA is not taking a strong enough stance. And they see them as regulating a little bit too much on gun issues. So I just wanted to kind of put all of this out there and just say, look, everybody says the Democrats want to take our gun away. Similar to I hear to say, oh, the Democrats are for defund the police.
Yes,
no, it's bad marketing. This is all. We are not here to take anybody's guns, but don't buy into the hype that the gun lobby is selling you that all gun control is a plot to seize weapons and leave owners defenseless. That's not what anybody, I think, at this table wants to happen.
No, and nobody in the Democratic Party. It's bullshit. The administration does not want your guns.
Read
Everybody's
the Constitution
saying
and come for your own opinion. I think when you talk to people, and I've talked to people who are on the other side of this debate, and we have come to common ground once we point out the language and we go through it and we highlight, you know, the connection to militia. There's no reason why we cannot have more sensible regulation without, of course, I'm not ignoring the fact that the mental health component does need to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop.
Absolutely.
You know, restricting guns.
But the
isn't gonna
only
stop the
difference
violence.
between us and other countries, because all countries have mental health problems, is the fact that our Constitution permits this very seemingly lax rules for gun control.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the factor. Mental health does need to be dealt with, but we need to start with the gun control in the beginning.
And it makes me crazy when I hear people saying the only way you can stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. And that's just, you say that to those 3 children and the 3 adults. I'm sorry, but
And it's not,
it wasn't
you
soon
can't
enough.
arm people with guns. And you have a right to a gun. I have a right to not have a gun then. It works both ways.
Correct.
And you can't then say you need to arm civilians with guns. If that teacher does not want to carry a gun, what is she not going to qualify for your job in a public school setting? Now we're talking about taxpayer funded jobs.
Right. Yeah. It's
not acceptable.
And also, like what Peggy mentioned, the AR-15. What person needs an AR-15.
No.
You don't even use those for hunting because
No,
it
of course
destroys
not.
it
Yeah.
destroys the deer. You can't even eat them.
It's an unfair advantage anyway. When hunting is supposed to be, all about skill.
We have
Yeah.
more skill, and well, that's the point. Is it a well-regulated? Right now, we are not well-regulated, and if we did ever have states that needed to defend
Our army,
themselves,
our military people are
Our-
well regulated.
but I mean our militia.
But that doesn't pertain. We have this crazy militia, like the Make America Great Again. They have their own little militia going there.
Absolutely. But I mean, even if, like I said, we have more rules and regulations on licenses.
Yeah.
You want to be a pilot, and say, even if you just want to fly your rinky-dink plane, little two-seater puddle jumper, you're going to have to come into the fold and get check rides every 2 years. You're going to have to get your medical looked at least, depending on your age, every 2 to 5 years. You can apply for a gun, get as many as you want, and never have to show or prove to anybody that you know how to use it.
Right.
That you are still competent to keep
exactly.
them.
But yet we can ban books. And we can ban, and that's a whole
Because
nother
books
animal.
will teach people how to read the damn fucking Constitution.
Absolutely.
Read the Constitution.
It's all about education.
It gets me so angry when we're talking. I didn't want to do this topic. I thought I was going to talk about chickens. But when we have children dying here, we need to talk about this. Even if it's, like I said, to 2 people. I mean, we need more people to read this. We need to get angry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one of the biggest problems with probably in the whole country is people just pick a side that they're going to be on, and that's it. They don't investigate anything.
Right.
There's no let me read the Second Amendment.
And Fox News is not investigating.
No, and let me, research what are all the different opinions about what that means, and then come to your own conclusions, educated conclusions.
But you know what? It's funny because if you're somebody that's hell-bent on having a gun, you're going to tailor what you're reading. You're going
Well, you can have a gun. Nobody's saying that you
No,
can't have the goddamn gun.
I know.
Have your gun.
But I'm saying,
Had this person who had the gun, and she got them legally, supposedly.
Yeah.
right.
Had she been required to present herself to a firing range
Yeah.
to show, to maybe see, do you know how to use it? Which obviously she clearly did. But
She
I mean,
did,
it puts certain people putting eyes on a person. You have no, I'm not talking about a job, but we have that happen all the time when somebody presents themselves for check rides, and then we get somebody call up, say, so-and-so came in, he doesn't seem mentally all there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, we do further investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
That could happen if you have somebody there just spouting around, propaganda or just seeming to be a little off. It could, and it should further another investigation. But
Yeah,
nobody checks on anybody
Even
with
background checks, there's so many Republicans that are against, extensive background checks.
right.
You're gonna have a weapon.
Yeah. That should be your responsibility that you're prepared for it and that you should legally be allowed to have it.
We have to get a license. You have to do an hearing test. You have to do an eyesight test. I'm so I get so emotional about it. I can't even do my eyes or my ears. But we don't check to see where these guns are stored in the home. Nobody. Think of how many jobs states could create if they had somebody that could say, we need to check where you store your guns.
Yeah, and inspectors.
Inspectors, right?
Like health inspectors go from business to business.
Right, especially with children in there.
Yeah.
This is, you want a way to get some tax
it's
revenue?
funny.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the commercial with parents are bringing their child to
Yes, I've seen that.
And I said, do you have a tiger?
I've seen
Yeah.
Yeah, and they say, well, it's the same as asking about a gun. And I did know of, not a family member, where I lived when I was a child, but a young boy was playing on the ice, just playing, sliding, holding his shotgun. He was 12 years old. Shotgun went off and it killed him. Just went up. He was allowed to just play on the ice, holding his shotgun. It was a shotgun. It wasn't an AR-15, but he was so young, and it was just like.
I mean, it's not going to save everybody, but
No, it isn't. It's gonna help.
We have to start somewhere, and that's.
Right.
I hate when people go down that wormhole so quickly. Well, it wouldn't have stopped this one. It wouldn't stop that.
Yeah.
let's not go there.
Think
We
about
need
what
to
it
stop.
what it might
Exactly.
stop.
Airbags don't save everybody.
Mhm,
but
that's
you know
right.
what? We
Mhm.
start somewhere. We
That's
have
right,
to
and
start somewhere.
seatbelts, the same thing, you know, it's,
Yeah. Yep.
well,
So that was my
that was a very good discussion, Judy, and I have to say, I really think that you should run for office.
Oh, God.
I really do. You should
No,
run
no.
for office in Suffolk County.
I don't want to lose my friend. I'll never see her
Are
again.
you kidding? Suffolk County would never vote for me.
You
It's
never
too
know.
conservative.
You never know. You're
Absolutely
very
not.
convincing, and you're informative. You're
Well,
intelligent.
it's funny because when you, this is the
comment.
first time that I could see the lawyer side of you, and I appreciated it very much because you came to the table with information that was factual and common sense, which I think that's a big thing. But what about you guys?
Mm-hmm.
What about you? We'd love to hear what you think about this topic. Did you learn anything? Do you disagree with anything?
You could buy a copy of the Constitution of the United States for like $3.95 in any bookstore.
That's what I did. It was about that right in Barcelona
Yep.
on the remainder tables. You know.
Really?
Oh yeah, you can get that.
Yep.
And I
Or
said,
free on the
internet. Free on
Yep.
the free on the internet. I like
Yep.
mine. Mine's a little like
Yeah, it's a little tiny book.
I wish I think I bought it on our first podcast.
Yeah.
You probably
Yeah.
Yes,
see
you
it.
did.
That's the one I usually, like I said, I
Yeah.
took it out. And I'm sorry, I think I failed you because I said I was going to be more of a moderator, but then I started
Oh, no,
cursing
no.
and I think that all went out the window.
I saw you did a lot of homework on this.
Yes, you did.
I didn't want
You
to step on your
did.
toes.
I mean, we could actually do a part 2 on
I was
this one.
thinking the same thing. But thank you all
Thank
for
you for
watching.
staying with us.
And our next podcast is going to be about jokes. Lighthearted, okay? So thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. That